those people who had perished in different situations. Just look at verse 6 to 9 with me quickly, where it talks about the parable of the barren. Hmm? No, Luke. Return to Luke for a moment. See, this is what Timothy means when Timothy said, rightly dividing the word of truth. You understand? Rightly explaining the connectivity, you understand, in the body of Christ, of the truth. Now, look what Christ said. He said, he spake also this parable. Now, a parable is an example or like a simile, you know? He spoke a parable or analogy, an allegory. A certain man had a fig tree planted. A certain man, right? A particular man. He's not saying who the man is, but a particular man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard. You know, this reminds me of, you ever seen the picture of His Imperial Majesty digging the tree? Digging the hole for the tree, putting the tree, planting the tree? When I look at this parable, I see that picture of the King of Kings, giving us the living parable of the barren fig tree. Because Ethiopia later on, in her rebelliousness, you understand, in her bitchiness, would turn her back on the King of Kings. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon and found none. So he planted this fig tree, and he was looking for fruit on it, for it to be fruitful. He wanted to eat figs, obviously. You understand? And he came and found no figs, right? Then said he to the dresser of his vineyard. So he had somebody who would dress his vineyard. This could have been like an Adam. There was like an Adam type, right? A dresser of his vineyard. Behold, these 3 years. Notice something. Christ ministered, Jesus ministered for how long? They say 3.5 years. So look what Christ is connecting. Behold, these 3 years, and the most important 3 years for us to study are 71 to 74. It's very interesting what His Imperial Majesty revealed, and many of us as Rastafari still don't know. But behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Could His Imperial Majesty say this to the Rastafari movement of that time? He could say that, right? The very same thing he could say to the Rastafari movement of that time, and maybe even all the way to this time, right? These 30 years. You still there? Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? Why is it taking up space? You understand? Why is it just taking up space? Yeah, cumbereth. It's an old Anglo-Saxon, old English expression to cumbereth something. Like to be a cumbrance is like to be a burden, or like taking up space, to burden the land. Why does it cumbereth? Cumbereth it the ground. Now, whoa. So now notice something right here about this parable. This parable both fits Ethiopia, especially in the early 70s, as well as it fits us as Rastafari in this present time, right? And then you can see in this parable, he is linking something to Adam and Eve and the garden, and the Elohim in the garden, and so forth and so on. He's saying that why is he going to allow this tree, this fig tree that he planted? He planted it. You understand? He had that tree planted, or he literally planted it. He wanted to find fruit for it to be fruitful. Can we as Rastafari or all Rastas say tree? It is his handiwork, but can we say as a movement, all of us as Rastafari, let's say that we're this fig tree. Can we really say as Rastafari, as this fig tree, that we have borne fruit, that we have given His Majesty the fruit that He's looking for in us? Can we honestly say that? See, that's the question that we need to really ask ourselves to really get this repentance, this change of mind into the true and faithful Rastafari going on. You understand? Look at this parable. Now he answering said to him, Lord, now notice what the dresser said. The dresser, the vine dresser said, and now Christ may be speaking of the Father and himself as the vine dresser, Lord, let it alone this year also. Leave it alone this year also. In other words, Christ, the Messiah, was trying to buy time for us. His Majesty was trying to shorten the days for us so the elect can be saved. You understand? Even I is trying to buy time for us as Rastafari before the throne of His Majesty. Just like the dresser here. Lord, let it alone this year also. Don't destroy these Rastas. Don't destroy the Rastafari. These ones and ones that talk about that they're Rastafari. Till I shall dig about it and dug it. Until I can dig it, dig around it. In other words, give it more. Maybe it needs more water. You understand? Maybe I want to go deeper. You understand? Bring forth the YouTubes and go a little bit deeper in the true teachings of His Imperial Majesty. Dig about it and dug it. And if it bear fruit, you understand? And if Rastafari once again becomes truly fruitful, well. And if not, then after that, thou shalt cut it down. See, what a lot of Rastafari we don't recognize is that how do we know that the axe is not already made ready at the root of Rastafari? How do ones know that this proclamation of the Line of Jew Society and His Majesty and I, Rasiadonis, is not one of the final calls to Rastafari before it gets chopped down? You understand? Before it gets cut down. And notice something about this parable. This parable right here, he leaves off. It stops right there. You see what I'm saying? He goes into the woman who was loose from her infirmity, which you said reminded you of your Inat situation right there. Well, Imama and Inanna, Inat, Imat is the same thing. It's both, it's like a twang. You know how one's twang? We twanged it in the Hebrew and the amharic as well too. You know what I mean? So, but it's a good thing that she understands and she receives that. But my point is this. This is a deep, deep part because it actually connects with Isaiah chapter 5. Come there with me for a moment, brethren. Let's go to Isaiah.
I'm not as sharp as I should be because I get there. I have to go to the beginning just to find where Isaiah is, to find out in my book to know which pages I got to look for.
Okay, it's Old Testament. It's Old Testament, and it's the last.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah, page 674.
All right.
Okay.
And now go to chapter 5. This is the parable of Yahweh's vineyard. The parable of he who is who he is, who revealed himself in Kedamawi Haile Selassie, his vineyard. You understand? It speaks about his vineyard. Okay, it says, now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. I never heard that reggae tune. How come there's no reggae tune about this right here, Yahweh's vineyard? I don't hear about Jah's vineyard. How come? Have you heard any tune in reggae music, the King's music? Come on, the King's music don't have a song about the King's vineyard. But it says, my well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof. He's speaking about holy Ethiopia here. You understand? And he fenced it, but it's an Old Testament of Israel as well as Ethiopia. We have dual citizenship. In God's sight, we have dual citizenship. Amos 9 and 7. Aren't you like the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? So, but our first nationhood, our root is Israel. See, we have to remember that. Our root is Israel. We changed our location. You understand? We changed our nationality, but